Hey guys, it's David from VHS Revolution. It's 2 a.m. and I just finished watching the Oscars. For reasons I can't quite get into, I wasn't able to watch it live, so I watched it on YouTube TV and I just finished it. And I thought it was good. Overall, I had some thoughts, but I was really happy with the winners. I was really happy that Honora won and that Sean Baker won. Sean Baker won a lot. It was really his night. It was really the movie's night, and I just want to share some thoughts. I thought overall it was a really good show. Um, the opening LA montage felt like it was cut by a junior editor. Just didn't feel up to the Oscar montage standards of the past. It just didn't quite have that oomph that I wanted. And it was so special because it was for LA. I knew what they were trying to do. They put together all these film clips of LA and movies, but I just wanted it to have more pizzazz and more emotion to it. And it was just okay. I thought Conan was great. Um, oh yeah, before Conan came out, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande sang three songs, but they didn't just sing three songs. I mean, yes, they were connected to Wizard of Oz and Wicked, and of course Cynthia Erivo has an amazing voice and really pulled off Defying Gravity in a major way, but there was no visual connection to any of the movies. They didn't have a montage playing behind them, connecting the songs to the movies from that year. There could have been so much they could have done, and this was kind of a common complaint I had throughout the show, was that there was so much they could have done visually to connect some of these songs or some of these other presentations to the movies, and they just didn't. Um, and so that felt like a blown opportunity. And why would they have them sing three songs? It just, I don't understand, especially after getting rid of the best song performances. They then filled that time with more song performances, so they didn't really save any time at all. I'll get into some of the other performances in a bit, but anyway, I mean, they were great. They earned their standing ovation. Um, but then Conan coming out of Demi Moore's back, like in The Substance, I thought that was really funny. I thought Conan O'Brien was a really good host. He seemed very relaxed, very funny. I could have used more jokes about the films, the nominated films, but I thought his monologue whipped by pretty fast. His song was funny enough. He was just having so much fun. I thought that was cool. And there were some really pointed little jokes and jabs. So I thought he did great, and I'd like to see him do the show next year. I think that just feels like a no-brainer. There was really nothing off about his whole presentation throughout the show. The Adam Sandler bit was really funny, mispronouncing the title of Nosferatu, which I think was not on purpose. Was really funny, and doing the whole Chalamet thing was great. It didn't go on too long. It went on a little bit too long, but it was funny nonetheless. I'm just looking at my notes here. Downey doing the acknowledgments of his fellow supporting actor nominees was good. I thought he was a little too Downey-ish, trying to be too casual almost. And I noticed this year that in all the previous years they've had the male winner present to the females and the female winner present to the males, and this time they put male on male and female on female, so to speak. And I thought that worked. Actually, it was a nice change and worked well. And Kieran Culkin, as he has throughout this award season, had a great speech. His little joke and story about his wife that had a really great punchline, and I was really happy with him. I thought his performance was great. I predicted him to win, and I was happy that he did. Let's see. June Squibb, really funny. Really fun. Funnier than Scarlett Johansson, actually. Their little banter was good. I thought for the most part the presenter banter was good. There's always some that work better than others. Some feel forced and some don't. But for overall, it didn't feel too forced. And June Squibb's whole thing about being performed by Bill Skarsgård was really funny. Daryl Hannah presenting was weird. Why? Because of the 20th anniversary or something of Kill Bill Volume 2? That just seemed weird. And then to not acknowledge her in Splash or Blade Runner. I don't know, that whole thing fell flat for me. Um, and also, it's like I guess now see, yeah, it would be the 30th anniversary of Pulp Fiction, but then last year they did a Pulp Fiction thing, or 2 years ago they did a Pulp Fiction thing. I don't know, the whole Daryl Hannah thing didn't work for me at all. But Ben Stiller was funny. It's nice to see Ben Stiller be funny. I haven't seen him be funny in a long time because he doesn't really act as much anymore. He mostly directs. And so the little production design bit with the stage rising and falling was funny. He really committed to it and pulled it off. Um, the In Memoriam segment was great. I love that they made time to include something for Gene Hackman. Morgan Freeman's tribute to him was very heartfelt and very sweet. Um, I don't know why they keep trying to make the In Memoriam more of a thing than it needs to be. You know, in years past, it used to just be a montage, and they would include a couple of shots from the actor or Hollywood person who passed away, and it would be set to some emotional music cue from another movie or something. And this one definitely worked better for me than in some of the past years where they've tried to do a performance and show the montage, and the two have totally not worked. And this time it was an orchestral performance, and it worked. It worked well enough. But I thought the choice of music was a little too dour, and I would have loved something a little more emotional. Um, by the way, I'm in a hotel right now, and everybody in my family is asleep, and because we're going to Disneyland tomorrow, it's a whole thing. Um, anyway, what else do I have here? I thought that the bringing out the five people to speak to for the costume design and the cinematographers was well-meaning, very sweet. They had somebody from each movie speak to those people, and it was great that they were highlighting those people, the cinematographers and the costume designers, in a really cool way, a little bit more than they have in the past. But it also just felt unnecessary, really unnecessary, especially if they're concerned about time and the length of the show. That's just something that just doesn't need to be done. Again, well-meaning and sweet, but just not necessary. Speaking of unnecessary, the James Bond tribute was completely unnecessary. And didn't they do a James Bond tribute like a few years ago as well? Maybe 10 years ago they did a James Bond tribute. It just, why? And timed to the, I don't know if they purposely timed. They probably didn't time it to the Amazon deal announcement from a few days ago. But that happening and then this just felt weird to me. But again, they messed up. Like they showed a montage. They did this like in the beginning. They show a montage of James Bond stuff, and then they have performers perform James Bond songs. But why not combine the two? Have the performers perform the songs with a montage behind them of clips from James Bond movies. It just seems obvious to me, and yet, again, I'm just like watching people perform songs when we could be moving along with the show. And the performers were great. I have nothing against them. They had beautiful voices. Their renditions of the songs were great, but totally unnecessary. And it felt like that time could have been given to honor the movies of that year more, or the Best Picture nominees more, instead of just like another tribute to James Bond. However, that being said, Margaret Qualley is amazing and should be in every musical performance of everything from now until the end of time, because she's just a great performer. And I loved her in The Substance, and I was really annoyed that she didn't get nominated. I'm Still Here over Amelia Perez. That was kind of surprising. I mean, I thought if anything was going to upset Amelia Perez's chances, it was going to be I'm Still Here. That was still kind of interesting to see. I noticed that when the director was walking down the aisle, that Edward Norton reached out his hand to shake the guy's hand, and the guy didn't notice and just walked by Edward Norton. I thought that was really funny. Norton got unintentionally snubbed there. The When Daniel Blumberg, the composer of um, The Brutalist, won, he and Brady Corbet kissed on the mouth, which I think was unintentional, but also kind of awesome. I don't know why. It just struck me as kind of a funny moment. Even I think Brady Corbet kind of acknowledged how funny it was when he turned to the audience and smiled. I thought that was great. And Okay, I have something I want to say at the end there, but Adrian Brody winning, I was really happy that he won. Of course, I would have loved for Timothy Chalamet to win because I loved his performance in A Complete Unknown, but I was happy for Adrian Brody. He won. I don't even know how long, 22 years ago, maybe now, for The Pianist, and I was actually there. I was at that show when I first moved to LA. My first job in LA, I worked for the Oscar-winning filmmaker Chuck Workman, who was doing the montages for the Oscars. And that year, we did a bunch of montages. I was his assistant editor, and I got to go to the Oscars. And that was the year of Chicago. Michael Moore won Best Documentary and gave this incendiary, thank you speech. He got booed by half the audience. And then Adrian Brody won Best Actor, and it was a real shock. And he went up and he smooched Halle Berry and gave this really emotional speech. And the same thing happened then that happened now, which is that the playoff music started playing, and he cut off the cutoff music to give this emotional last little bit about our current times and war. And it was almost like a sequel. His speech was a sequel to his first speech. I thought it was really funny. If you go back and watch his first acceptance speech that he did for The Pianist and watch this one, they're very similar. But he's a very emotional guy, and I believe really, sincere and honest. And I'm really happy for him. Speaking of which, Mikey Madison winning over Demi Moore was, for me, probably the biggest surprise of the night. I thought if anybody had a chance of winning over Demi Moore, it was going to be Mikey Madison. But still, all the signs were pointing to Demi Moore. And even though I love Demi Moore and I love that she's been so honored this award season, I don't know, I was still kind of bummed for her, even though Mikey Madison's performance in Anora is amazing and she's totally deserving of the award. But I still would have loved to have seen Demi Moore up there. So I'm a little split on that, but really happy for Mikey Madison. Sean Baker's Best Director speech was just great, imploring people to go back to the movie theater. There were two pleas for people to go back to the movie theater, one from Conan and one from Sean Baker, and I thought that was really great and really important, and I loved seeing that. I think it is important for people to continue to go to the movie theater and not just be lazy and watch movies at home. If they can go to the theater, I think they should. Okay, what else? Okay, so there's this Rolex commercial that kept playing, and it featured James Cameron and Martin Scorsese and Iñárritu and Catherine Bigelow. But I think they really blew an opportunity there, because every time I saw the commercial, which played multiple times throughout the show, it ended with Scorsese. And I thought it would have been really cool if they had ended one with Scorsese, one with Iñárritu, one with Catherine Bigelow. She was the first female director to win the Best Director Oscar. Again, feels kind of like a missed opportunity. There was a bunch of those throughout the night, and that was like the one really kind of emotional cinematic commercial that I felt could have really done something kind of interesting by having different endings for each time they played the commercial. Anora won Best Picture, won Best Director, won Best Editing. Sean Baker now joins James Cameron and Alfonso Cuarón as a director who has won for both directing and editing in the same night. Cameron won for Titanic, Cuarón won for Gravity. That's a major achievement. It's hard enough to direct a movie, but to also edit your movie and then to win the Oscar for it is pretty incredible. So I'm really happy for him. Let's see. I'm bummed that A Complete Unknown didn't win anything. It was my second favorite movie of the nominated 10. and one of my favorite movies of the year. And it's just the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes there's a movie that doesn't win anything, um, and it was not that it wasn't deserving, you know, um, but it was. And so there's just one other thing I want to say, which is, you know, I know people like to complain about the Oscars every year. Every year there's articles about, oh, this year sucked, or here's how we fixed the Oscars, and or the Oscars are too political now and I can't watch it. It's too hard to watch. I mean, newsflash: the Oscars have always been political. Really, like go back to Jane Fonda and Sashing Little Feather accepting for Marlon Brando in the '70s, and Michael Moore's speech, like I said, criticizing George W. Bush and the Iraq War. There's always been politics at the Oscars, and especially now we live in political times. You can't ignore it. I think for the Oscars to ignore it and just stick to like entertaining us would be foolish. So I have no problem with it, and I don't think you should either. Um, but it was a good show. I thought it was a good show overall. It was a good show. There's always choices that are kind of baffling, but I thought I thought everything worked well. So that's my recap of the Oscars, and I'm gonna go to bed now. And I'll talk to you later. And this has been the VHS Revolution Show. Take care.